Well, let's go back to May 3rd of this year, if we will, to Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky, the Kentucky Derby. It was supposed to be the Rock Hill Native or the Plug Nickel Show. It turned out to be all genuine risk. First filly in a long time to win at Churchill Downs, the Kentucky Derby. A lot of excitement there because I think, Terry, a lot of people felt that this was a race that was up for grabs. Any one of these horses could have probably won it.
Well, in particular, Wayne, what had happened was the favorites had the same sort of style. They were both horses that ran toward the front end. And it was a race that built up for a horse that would come from off the pace. Genuine Risk had run third behind Plug Nickel and Colonel Moran in the Wood. And there were people who felt she couldn't beat a top colt, but obviously she showed us in the Kentucky Derby because not only did she win, but she ran very fast at the end, which is usually an indication of a horse of real quality. Jacqueline Klugman made a run at her, Rumble made a run at her. She was simply that much the best that day. And incidentally, these races have been run very fast. There's been a lot of knock on the quality of the three-year-olds, but actually time-wise, they've been very fast at tracks that haven't been yielding to fast times this year. So we may be looking at a lot better horses than we thought.
You know, one horse that was notably missing from the Kentucky Derby was a colt by the name of Codex, a tough colt from California, and that colt was then entered in the Preakness, and as was Genuine Risk, and so that was set up then. Rock Hill Native did not run. Plug Nickel did not run, both for injuries or some other reason in the Preakness, but now the matchup was Codex against Genuine Risk, and that's basically how it ended up.
Well, no question about it. Codex is a real nice colt who had been the champion in California, but through an oversight, he had not been nominated to the Kentucky Derby. All of the other races have provisions for late nominations, but not the Derby. In this particular case, though, Codex is a horse who had some speed. He put away Colonel Moran early. His rider, Cordero, is a very smart rider. He managed to save all the horse he could. Of course, they'll have the incident that we'll be looking at in a minute. But really, once they straighten out here for the drive, you see this horse has got terrific action. He really has a long stride. He's the son of Arts and Letters, who, of course, was a champion, the horse of the year, and a horse who won the Preakness Stakes, or rather was second in the Preakness Stakes to Majestic Prince. But nonetheless, this is a real good one, and Codex, of course, would be the favorite for the Belmont Stakes off of this win in the Preakness.
You mentioned that incident. A lot of people are still talking about it, with Codex coming out, going wide. Tell me about it.
Well, as you see here, when they're coming off of the turn, the winner, Codex, does drift out and drift toward the path that Genuine Risk is on. The stewards have a difficult decision to make here. You know, there's a lot at stake in a race like this. There's a possible Triple Crown. There's a lot of residual benefits to Codex if he should win this race in terms of his breeding career, etc. And there's just a whole history of racing. Depends a great deal on what goes on. They looked at it from all angles, Wayne. They're seeing more angles than we're just looking at here. And their final decision wasn't enough reason to take him down.
Okay. While everything was going on around the country, of course, there were three big stakes races that were run at Ak-sar-ben, the first of which was run on May 3rd, the Beef State, and it was won by Amadevil, an old favorite around the track.
An old friend indeed he is, Wayne, at Amadevil, the greatest money-winning Nebraska bred of all times, and the greatest money-winning sprinter in American history. He was on the front end in this race. Front end didn't win the Kentucky Derby, but it sure did win the Beef State, and he's been so impressive. We expect to see them try him again at a distance of ground during the course of this meeting, but he obviously is still the best sprinter on the grounds, beating Brazen Bold here, Wayne.
Then it was on to May 10th, and that was the Ambassadors, and a lot of good things happened here.
Well, we have a lot of good three-year-olds, useful three-year-olds. The winner of this race is called Wonder Lark. This was the 9th win in 15 starts in his career, and I think the experience made the difference. The horse we'll be talking about here in a few minutes, Mighty Warrior, is an inexperienced horse. It hurt him, but Wonder Lark, coming from off the rail and moving out to the middle and splitting horses, then pulling away, is a horse who has already won at a distance of ground, and happily we can report he's going to move on and contest the Omaha Gold Cup, assuming he can move through the rest of our important races. This horse is a pretty nicely bred horse, and he came out of the Southwest where he won the Sunland Park Derby. His people at first were thinking about going to the Preakness, but they're staying around, and we had a chance to talk with his assistant trainer, Kathy Campbell. Okay, we're here with Wonder Lark, winner of the Ambassador Stakes, and alongside here is Kathy Campbell, the assistant trainer for Charlie Allison's barn here. And Kathy, you get on with this horse all the time. You've been around him quite a bit, and I'll tell us a little bit about his habits, what makes him such a special horse.
Well, I think the thing that makes him so special is he likes to run, and he likes the racetrack, and I gallop him all the time, and the riders usually just ride him during the races or work him out, and I usually gallop him all the time, and every time he goes to the racetrack, he wants to run. I mean, that's what makes him a good horse, I think.
Did it surprise you at all in the Ambassadors that he was not with the first flight of horses and all, but he came from behind and did it just like a pro? Were you surprised he didn't show more speed?
Yeah, quit biting. Well, he's come from behind before, and he's come from behind before, and he's been able to catch him, and sometimes I think he likes to play catch-up, so I wasn't too surprised when he came from that far out of it.
He's a horse with a lot of character. Tried to eat the microphone there at one stage. The other horse of a lot of character in the race that we talked about is called Mito Warrior. He definitely is a horse of a lot of ability, but he had his problems during the course of the race in the Ambassadors. There's owner Del Pettigrew, a furrier out of Lincoln, Nebraska, and his wife, Martha Hawk Pettigrew, is an outstanding equine artist, by the way. They were in the paddock there, and Mito Warrior was acting up, nearly kicked over our cameraman on a couple of occasions. And then when he got out onto the racetrack, even more problems incurred. He just simply gave way under the pressure.
His problems the other day were all from inexperience. He had everything in his 3 previous races. Everything had gone pretty much his own way, and the other day I had a little fear that he may get topped, that some horse may be in front of him, and with the sand hitting him in the face and everything, he didn't really run his race. He was fractious in the gate. He tried to flip, and it was all because of nerves and being green, just not having enough experience. These other colts that run in the race have had a lot of experience. Some of them have had stake experience before, and they were used to the pressure, and this colt felt a little bit of the pressure the other day, and it showed up in him. So we're going to have to back up on him just a little bit, take him back to the gate, stand him in the paddock, and try to get him to relax a little bit and do things a little more right.
Well, a couple of days ago, Mito Warrior hopped a van and went over to Chicago, and just about the time that we're on the air right now with this show, he will be contesting the 7-furlong Olympia Stakes at Arlington Park in Chicago, and hopefully a little bit later on this evening, Wayne will be able to give us a story on some success for him over in Chicago.
I will keep an eye on it. Of course, on Saturday, it was the ACE Stakes, and it was kind of muddy at Ak-sar-ben, but it didn't seem to bother JJ's girl, and I'll tell you what, earlier in the week, JJ's girl told me herself that she was going to win that race, and you'll know more about that a little bit later on in the show.
Well, JJ's girl is another one of those outstanding Nebraska-bred horses. There she is way out in the middle of the track. She's on her way to a victory by 2.5 lengths over a real good filly called Nervous John, winning on a muddy track in the ACE. She's over $100,000 in career earnings and just a little bitty filly. We'll see more of her in a little while.
She's quite a character, too. We've been talking about characters. I'll tell you what, there are a lot of thoroughbreds up for sale yesterday at Ak-sar-ben. We'll have that story right after this.
The quiet waters of giant Lake McConaughey will soon explode with the power and excitement of thunderboats during the Big Mac Thunderboat Races, August 22nd through the 24th. Don't miss your chance to see the world's fastest boats traveling at top speeds of 200 miles per hour. Or turn your eyes skyward for the Coors Hot Air Balloon Race, August 23rd and 24th. The Ogallala Thunderboat Races, August 22nd through the 24th. Vacation excitement on just 1 tank of gas. Write or visit these locations for advanced ticket information.
Great Furniture Warehouse inflation fighting sale continues with this living room group. Sofa, love seat, and chair priced at only $299. And you still get a 120-day free layaway at these sale prices. Lamps, $12 and up. Mattresses and foundation each as low as $28.88. End tables only $19 each and up. Great Furniture Warehouse, you bet. 1219 Leavenworth and 7407 L. Easy financing with approved credit. Open 7 days a week, where everything is cheap, cheap, cheap.
Try on as many as you'd like. Wolf Brothers Western Store has over 2,000 belts and straws in many styles. Stetsons, resistos. Check the fit from every angle. It's got to feel right. Maybe it needs to be a bit narrower here, a deeper crease in the crown. If it doesn't look right, we'll tell you. You add the finishing touches, leather bands, buckles, even feathers. Now you've got yourself a hat. Wolf Brothers Western Store, 70th and Dodge, West Roads and Midlands Mall.
As you watch this show this evening, just yesterday, a lot of excitement was going on here in the sales pavilion at Ak-sar-ben. And we thought we'd like to give you a little bit of an insight into what goes into purchasing of young racehorses. There are 2 very important aspects of this. First, you have what constitutes the menu, the catalog. In here are listed all the horses that are going through the sales ring. And then, of course, a chance to look at the horses themselves. Not many people have had chances to see these catalogs, and we thought you'd like to look through with us. Hip number 7, whose name is Steppen. As you can see at the top of the page, this is a gray gelding. And right beneath where it lists him as a gray gelding, you'll get some idea of his family tree. Right beneath his name there, it says 21378, which indicates he was born on the 13th of February in 1978. And to the right, the family of him for 3 generations back. Immediately beneath that, then, you'll find a listing of all of his crucial relatives, particularly on his female side. And as you'll see, there's a lot of very heavier black type in that list of relatives. There are two important types of black type that we look for on these catalogs. One, the very uppercase, all capital letters black type, which is an indicator that a horse was a stakes winner. The lowercase black type indicates that a horse was placed in stakes. All of the other regular type indicates horses that were runners, but were not stakes quality runners. As you can see in the pedigree of a horse like Stepan, there's a lot of the heavy black type. Compare that then to page 8, which has Lovant, the other winner, the winner here at Ak-sar-ben. Lovant does not have many kin who have been to the racetrack, and they do not have nearly as much prestige about them. He has quite a bit of ability, but as you can see, there's no heavy black type, only a couple of lowercase black type indicating stakes-placed horses. But this is not the only way to examine a racehorse. The next important thing, after you see what you've liked in the catalog, is to look at the horse himself. Okay, Jim McCumber, you're standing here with the horse that you train called Lovant. He's one of the two winners in the sale this coming Sunday afternoon. What sort of preparations now will you have put into him and getting him ready for the sale for Mr. Glick?
Stay on preparation for a sale. I mean, you know, on a horse like him, I mean, you clip them up and have them nice and clean and shiny because people like that. But I mean, he don't really need anything. He kind of speaks for himself, this horse does.
Now, this horse has already been a winner and showed a lot of talent. Just speaking from strictly a trainer's standpoint, it must kind of give you a bad feeling to know that there's a shot he won't be back in here the next day.
Well, it really does, but I mean, as many horses as Mr. Glick, he feels as bad about it as I do. As many as he raises, you've got to sell some of them, because, and nobody wants a bad one. If you got a good one to sell him. Because, you know, if the horse will go ahead and make money for people, and that's what makes buyers out of him, you know. And I hate like heck to see him go, but I mean, that's the way you got to do it.
I'm here with Don von Himmel now, who buys a lot of horses at sales. We want to talk about the conformation of the racehorse. And from, I guess, maybe in a sense, one end to another. Don, is there something about the head and neck structure of a horse that you look for that teaches you anything at all?
Well, first thing you look is for balance. If you see the balance in a horse that you really like, then you'll go over him from one end to the other and start picking out his faults. First place you'll start is reach up here and open his mouth to make sure he's not parrot-mouthed. Look at his eye to make sure he has a real good eye. The length of his neck is also comes into it. You don't like a real short-necked horse. You go right on to the length of his body and his legs, and you pick out the faults that he has in each place and decide whether you can live with those or not. You like to see a good, healthy foot, one that isn't deformed or have a bunch of rings around it here. Then when you go to the pastern, you like to see the right angle on the pastern that conforms with the angle on the shoulder, not too short and not too long. And then you go straight on up as long as the ankles are in good shape. You go to the knee. You like to see a good flat knee with the bone coming right straight down through it, on up to the shoulder. And then you just go to the back and do primarily the same thing back there.
Now, what kind of, you're talking about the angles of the shoulder and things like that. What is that, why is that so critical, Don?
Well, that's just, you see this angle through here, you like for that to be the same as the angle in the pastern. That's just a horseman's way of looking at him.
Okay, Don, if you can explain what sickle hocks are and cow hocks and why they're detrimental to a horse.
Sickle hock would be when his hocks turned in. And that, just another conformation defect. It's harder for him to travel when he's like that. So you like a good straight hock, such as this horse has right here.
Now, usually when people go to a sale, they like to have a horse walked down away from them and then walk back at them. What's the purpose of having something done like that?
You'd like to see whether he wings or whether he toes in or just how straight he moves.
Once you've looked over a horse's conformation then and his breeding, and you're with an owner, how do you determine what kind of price range horses will fall into?
Well, his pedigree and conformation generally decide that for you. If it's real good, then there's going to be more people interested in him. You're going to have to pay more money. But you come to a certain point that you and the owner have agreed with how many dollars you're going to spend, and you'll probably hedge on it and go over it a little bit, but you just stop, and if you don't get him, go look for another one.
You probably all heard of Mr. Ed from TV fame. Well, we've got our own star, JJ's Girl. I'll be back with that story right after this. JJ, come here a second. Normally on the stars of these shows, we're talking to the jockeys, we're talking to the trainers, we're talking to the owners and people like this. But today, we're actually going to go right to the horse's mouth. And I guess we're going to talk to JJ's girl. Mike Meredith, you are the horse's exercise boy. And I understand this horse is a lot more talented than just what we see on the racetrack.
That's for sure.
Let's try counting. I'm going to give you a problem. Let's start easy.
All right, whatever.
Let's start with 3 plus 1.
That's too easy.
That's too easy? Okay, how about 3 times 3?
3 times 3. All right, JJ. What's 3 times 3?
What else? Can she subtract?
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever.
Let's figure we should come up with another easy one, maybe. Take 10 from 13, JJ.
10 from 13, JJ. That's it.
Now, that's amazing.
All right, JJ, and I want to ask you a couple questions, all right? You like racing here at Ak-sar-ben?
Let's go ahead and ask her if she's been having fun today.
Well, you ask her. JJ, who wants to know if you've been having fun?
With me, Debbie Branzell and Mike Meredith, and you guys spend most of the time with JJ's girl, and I know you're just as proud as can be about the fact that this horse is not only a super filly as far as racing goes, but as we can see, got a lot of smarts, too.
Definitely.
More smarts than a lot of people, I tell you.
Horse sense.
When did you find out, Debbie, that JJ's girl had this kind of a talent?
Well, we left here last year and went to Del Mar, California, and this is where we started teaching her this. It was mostly occupying our time. We spent a lot of time playing with JJ, and one thing kind of led to another. Mike spent most of the time with her, and started feeding her carrots, and she would tap for him, and we finally got the idea of why not try and see if she could count. It was kind of a joke at first, but it turned out to be a serious thing, and JJ's just done remarkable.
Is there a trick to this, JJ?
There ain't no
He turns away from it. He's not going to hit it. Let me ask you this. How unusual is it for a racehorse? These are high-strung animals to do this.
Very unusual for this, because they're on a different training program. This is serious training. They're thoroughbred racehorses. JJ's just a very unusual horse.
Right, 4 times 4. I get it right this time.
All right, that's beautiful. 4 times 4.
No girl.
That's really great. She could really count. I'm not sure I could have counted that high. She does some great tricks, though, and we'll see more of her in a little bit. Another one we want to watch right now, though, is one of the other fine ladies on the grounds. This one, a human being in this case, the leading apprentice female rider in the country, and a really nice girl, Kathy Moore, making quite an impression amongst all the racegoers, and we had a chance to talk with her.
Before we get into a lot of the questions about yourself, let's get away with the obvious question. Have things changed over the past years? Seems like horse racing is still a man's sport. Is it any easier for you being a female jockey?
Well, from what I can tell, it's pretty rough. I don't know if it was any harder, 5 or 6 years ago, because I wasn't in the position I'm in now. But I still think a lot of trainers and owners think they can get, better ride for the same money from a man. I guess because strength is a factor that they feel we don't have, I guess.
Are you surprised with the kind of success you're having? Because really, last year was your first serious year at riding, and now you've got 27 wins or something like this year. Are you surprised with that kind of success?
Well, I'm happy, and I've worked hard for it, and I felt like I was ready to ride and compete last summer. Because I rode my first couple races in the fall of '77, and my boss, who has, started out quite a few riders, he just let me ride horses that didn't have a chance and stuff like that, just for experience. And so I kind of, I kind of was ready for it. I had a little experience, and when he gave me a chance to ride some live horses, I was ready.
I'll tell you what, a guy like John Lively, a Larry Snyder, they ride horses for a living. I understand you're a multi-talented person. Right now, riding horses is part of what you do. Explain a little bit about what you do during a day.
Well, see, well, in the morning, I go to Barn 5, where, Jimmy Garud has his outfit there. He's stabled there. And we just set out the tack and started taking sets of horses out to gallop and stuff. And sometimes I have to pony some. And then it's a typical day if all the help's there and everything. And then when the help's not there, if we're short a groom or something, then I have to just kind of fill in for him or just pitch in. And, you know, and sometimes, well, I usually have to clean the tack. But, you know, I'm still working my way up there. I have a lot to learn, and I'm going to make mistakes, you know. I'm an apprentice, and so I'm just still serving my time.
Does success to you mean having people recognize you as simply a good jockey, whether male or female?
Well, yeah, I guess you could say that. Success means, you know, riding a lot of winners.
Another one of the really outstanding ladies. And this year the lady continues as we go into the next few weeks leading up to our next show. And something exciting is about to happen. We'll talk more about that when Ak-sar-ben 80 continues.
Became the richest thoroughbred racehorse in history. He did so by winning the California Stakes and the top prize that goes with it of $184,000.
That spectacular bid was every bit as good as his name in winning the California Stakes. The bid, the number 3 horse in the field, took the lead along the backstretch and then pulled away from the field. The victory was worth over $184,000 to the bid's owners and boosted the bid's career earnings to over $2,394,000. No horse has ever earned that much money on the racetrack. Spectacular Bid broke the track record, covering the mile and an eighth in 1:45 4/5. This is Tom McDonald reporting.
Just a reminder, Ak-sar-ben 80, the great races, will air it at 6:30 this evening, and you might want to stay tuned because we have something exciting for you.
It's 3 across the track. Genuine Risk between horses on the outside. Temperance Hill on the rail. It's Rock-Hill Native. Those 3 continue to fight for the lead.
And Temperance Hill brought recognition to Midwest Thoroughbred Racing with his win at the Belmont on Saturday. We'll talk about that, and we've got something exciting for you next on Ak-sar-ben 80.